Right, so we have been discussing about the application of Newton's second law in situations where there are multiple forces acting on a body or on a combination of bodies. And some of the common types of forces we saw earlier include the force of normal reaction force between two surfaces in contact and the concept of free body diagram. Yes, this good. So hope you have understood these things up till date. Okay. Now today we will continue in that regard, but we will start with the discussion about another of the common mechanical forces called tension. Okay, so we were discussing about common types of forces. Okay, in mechanical systems. So till date we had covered weight or gravitational force. We had discussed about normal reaction force, which is a type of contact force between two surfaces, okay, which is perpendicular to the plane of contact. Typically we denote it with the symbol N. Now today we will start with the discussion of another type of force called tension. Okay, or it is a short form for tensile force, because it comes from a property called tensile stress, which we will discuss later. But here we will discuss about just the concept of tension force or tensile force. Okay, so what is tension or tensile force? Let's begin by understanding that. So the idea is that whenever there is a thread or a rope, or even a thin rod or something like that, but a longitudinal material, which has a significant length, which is being stretched under the action of external forces, then it develops a sort of tension. It becomes tight, as opposed to when you're not applying force. So just imagine a rope which is just lying loose on the ground. So it is in a state of non-tensile, or no tension in it. Okay, or what we say is it is in a loose, or sometimes we call it a lax kind of state. But the moment we pull the thread from both the ends, okay, like I'm pulling the pen here right now from both the ends. So the moment I pull a rope or a thread like this from both the ends with some force, it develops a tension, or it becomes tight. Okay, so that kind of force, yeah, it comes from the property of elasticity. Okay, but here we are referring to a material that may not be elastic also. Like it may not stretch under the action of force, unlike a rubber band which will stretch under the action of force. But the moment we apply force from both the ends, it develops this property of tightness as opposed to being loose. And tightness means that within that material there is a tension, there is a force that acts along the length, and that is called tension. Okay, so in short, tension is a type of force. It's a type of internal force, okay, that acts along the length of a longitudinal material, okay, like a rope or thread, okay, or uh, thin rod or chain, or any of these kind of things. Okay, okay, that is tight. Okay, or in language of mechanics, this tightness is called taut, T-A-U-T, taut. Okay, under the action of external forces. So this type of force is called tension. So for example, we have a situation like this, that we have a smooth horizontal surface, a smooth floor, and a wall on this side. Okay, and through a hook we have attached a kind of a rope, but that rope is kind of lying loosely on the ground right now because there is no force from the other side. Okay, so this is a rope. Okay, it is in a what we call a lax state or loose kind of state. So when it is in this kind of state, there is no tension, okay, acting along its length. Okay, but the moment we take it from this state to a kind of state where now something like this is happening, we are, let's say, pulling it from the other side. One side, of course, it is attached by a hook, okay, but from the other side we are applying some kind of external force on it now, let's say. So what we'll notice when that happens is that first of all the shape becomes straight. Geometrically you can see it is not loose like this, so it's not, the shape is not like zigzagged. Okay, it develops a longitudinal straight kind of shape like this because of the action of force. So of course this will happen only when we are bringing it into this kind of state, what is called the taut state or tense state, by applying some external force. So the moment we apply this external force, okay, due to the action of, first of all, force F on the side A, let's say, of the rope, and on the other side there is a reaction force on side B. Let's say that reaction force is R. Okay, so the moment we apply some kind of external force, okay, so what happens is internally within the rope now there is a tensile force that develops. So what happens is, due to the action of the combination of these two forces externally, one is the force that is applied by some external agent on the right hand side edge or this end of the rope, the end A of the rope, I am applying the force F, but this tends to pull the rope, so of course at the end B there is a reaction force that develops which balances this. So these are equal and opposite forces which don't allow the rope to move. So the acceleration of the rope is 0 because R equals to F. But at the same time, the difference is now due to these two, due to the action of these two, what is happening? The rope is now in a taut state. Okay, taut or tense. Okay, or tight, any of these words we can use for it, kind of state, and that means that it has developed an internal force of tension which will denote with T along its length. Okay, and that tension here will act like this. That tension now within the rope will act like this. This end of the rope where we are pulling with a force F, that end will experience a tension inwards. The hook will experience a tension towards the right. Okay, so that force opposes the external force. So you can literally imagine that if you have this rope tied to the wall and you're pulling it from one end, so your hand will experience an equal and opposite force. So that is the tension in the rope. and on the other side the rope is attached to the wall by a hook, so that hook will be experiencing a force towards the opposite side. The hook will be pulling back the rope, but the rope will also be pulling the hook in the forward direction. So that force is the tension or tensile force that develops because it is now in this kind of state. It is in a taut state. Tense is the opposite of loose. Okay. Yeah, absolutely, Diti. This is a non-elastic material. Now we are taking a rope, so it does not stretch. So the example we are taking over here is like a nylon rope, a rope made of nylon fibers or cotton fibers or even jute fibers. So it's not made of rubber. So it's not stretching. E is equal to 0 means acceleration is 0, Harshal. In Newton's laws of motion, always acceleration, okay, because R and F are balancing each other. These are the external forces on the rope. They are balancing each other. So the net force is 0. So the rope is not in a state of motion. Whereas if it was not tied to the hook on the other side, okay, yeah, the evidence is there. I will show you, Viti. Just write this down first. Okay, just have a bit of patience. Okay, there's plenty of evidence that there is tension. Okay, the first example I gave you right now of the evidence is that just imagine this situation which I've given you here, that when you pull the rope from one end, your hand feels a pulling force backwards. No, it's a sensation you can actually feel. No? So that means there is something applying a force on your hand. No? It has to be the rope. There's nobody else pulling your hand. So the rope is applying a type of force. Now that type of force only, उसको हम क्या बोलते हैं? उसको tension बोलते हैं. It's as simple as that. So abhi instead of the rope, suppose there had been a thin rod like a plastic rod or a wooden rod, and you were pulling that also from one end. So again your hand would experience a backward force, no? Equal and opposite. So we know that the rod would have that tension. Similarly, where the rod or the rope or whatever is attached to the hook over here, you can see that hook will experience a force. No? If you apply too much force and the hook is not able to withstand it, it can even get pulled out of the wall, no? If the attachment is not strong enough. So there's plenty of physical evidence that there is such a force. Now we know that there is such a force. It's only the name given to this force is tension. So likewise, if you take any sort of material which is longitudinal, it could be made of plastic, wood, whatever, okay, and it may or may not be made of elastic material which can stretch, but the moment you are applying external forces such that it has become tight or it is tending to get extended, it will develop this force of tension. Yes, once we leave it, it will return to the original. So more importantly, once you stop applying the external force, the rope goes back to the state of being lax or loose. Now this first state over here, it goes back to this state. So in this state, what about the tension? It is 0 because it is in a lax or loose state. So the moment we withdraw the external force from here, same thing will happen. It will go back to the lax state. Exactly, Tej, it will have tension, which is why I have not mentioned anything about elastic material over here. All the materials we are talking about are typically not elastic in nature, like the chain or rod or rope or a thread. Okay, so let's just stick to these kind of materials for the moment. Chain, rope, thread, rod, etc. You can make a rope out of paper fiber also, only it will not be very strong. That's the only difference. It's not uncommon actually, but it is a relatively weaker string, made of paper fibers. Paper is after all out of wood pulp, so it's, of course, if we subject a material like this to excess amount of force, then instead of balancing the force with tension, what happens? It will break, it will crack up, or it will just shred. So that's a different matter. Okay, so we are not talking about that stage. We're talking about a situation where the material is intact, but the external force has just caused it to get tensed up. Or in language of Newton's laws, we say it has got caused it to get taut, T-A-U-T, taut. That is the word for it. Okay. No, there's no such thing. Just have a bit of patience, stage. And in fact, these are common things which you can read yourself also, which is why I have referred you to good reference books like Resnick, Halliday, or NCRT. Okay. The subject is very wide on its own, so you can do some investigation of these things yourself also. Okay. All right. Now, one very important point over here: if a rope or thread is massless. Okay, now of course no thing is perfectly massless, but what do we mean by massless? It means that the mass of the rope or thread is negligible. Okay, compared to the blocks or other bodies in the system. So if that happens, we say it is nearly massless. So by massless we don't mean zero mass. Nothing has zero mass. Even electron has a finite amount of mass, but then it's very, very small, right? So imagine a rope which weighs a fraction of a gram or something, compared to blocks we are attaching to it which weigh several kilograms. Okay, so its mass is absolutely negligible. So that kind of rope. So if a rope or thread is massless, then the tension in it will have a uniform magnitude. So this is very important. Okay, uniform magnitude throughout it, throughout its length. Okay, so why this happens, I'll explain through examples. Okay, but first of all, this is like a rule of thumb we should remember, that if we are talking about something which has negligible mass or it is massless, then the tensile force is uniform throughout it. Okay, so obviously the counter statement to this is there, that on the other hand, if we have a heavy rope or chain, something like that, then tension may be, not always, but may be variable. Okay, at different points. Okay, but at the moment we are not really concerned with the second point. We are concerned with the first one, that if we are dealing with a massless longitudinal material, like a massless thread or a massless rope or a string or something like that, then the tension throughout it will be uniform. Then we'll come to the case where tension may be variable in a heavy rope or a chain. Okay, so just make a note of this point first. So let's understand this with few examples. So the most common everyday example of this is that we are just suspending an object of a certain mass vertically, but using a thread or a rope which is very light compared to it. So of course at the same time the rope should not be so weak, okay, that it cannot bear the tension, that it will break or it will shred. So we are assuming that is not happening. We are assuming that the thread or rope that we are using has the required amount of tensile strength to be able to balance the weight, okay. But at the same time its own mass is not comparable to the mass of the object we are suspending. Its own mass is negligible compared to this. Okay, so we have this rope, and then on the other side we have used this apparatus to suspend a block that is considerably heavier than the mass of the rope. Okay, so this is a block of mass, let's say capital M equal to something, let's say 2 kilograms, and we will take G as 10 meters per second square. Okay, now this is what we call a light or massless string or thread. Okay, so given that this is in the vertical position, okay, we have to find the tension T in the thread, how much tension it develops. So for that, if we just for a moment visualize both the things that are part of our system, one is that we have this thread which is part of our system, okay, the other is that there is this block which we have suspended, okay, to it, okay, using this hook, okay, and of course we have also got the hook on top. So just think of them separately now, the three things, the hook which is attached to the ceiling, think of it separately. So what is happening is that the block is experiencing an upward force through this, and it's pulling this downwards. The hook is experiencing a downward force through this, and it's pulling this upwards, okay, and of course is mg, and this is the force of tension T, okay, by the rope or by the thread on the block, okay, and this downward force here, this is again tension by the rope or by the thread on the hook, okay, and this R is the reaction force to the tension, action reaction, that principle. Okay, so in this diagram what we can show, in short, when we want to show this thing in only one single diagram, we just show that the rope attached to an object, okay, will make that object experience an upward force at this end of tension, and the hook at the other end will experience a tension. So as you can see, this block is at rest, so the state of the block is at equilibrium. So T must balance mg. So the tension at the lower end, in fact let's make this T1 and T2, and I'll show you why T1 is equal to T2 now. So if this tension is T2, this reaction force is R1 and this reaction force is R2, okay. So the tension at the lower end by Newton's second law, you can see, because the block is at rest, so net force must be 0. So tension upwards must balance the weight downwards. So it's equal to the weight, which is equal to 20 newtons in this case. Okay. Now think of the rope. Now what is happening? The thread is also in equilibrium. Thread is also in a state of equilibrium. Okay. So R2 must balance R1. Now R2 is nothing but T2 and R1 is nothing but T1, because they are action reaction pairs. Okay. R1 acting downwards on the thread, okay, and T1 acting upwards on the block. This R1 and T1 are an action reaction pair. Okay, so magnitude of R1 is equal to T1, and likewise magnitude of R2 is equal to T2. So that's how we got this. Okay, so from this we are understanding that T2 is equal to T1. Okay, and that is what is showing us that tension is uniform through the length of the rope. Whatever tension there is at the lower end, same amount of tension is there at the upper end, which is equal to the weight of the block. So in the end, the conclusion here is what? The conclusion is that the thread develops a uniform tension of T equal to mg, or a tension of 20, in this case 20 newtons through its length. Okay, so make a note of this, please. So just like we calculate normal reaction in a situation by applying Newton's second law and then understanding what kind of force acts between the surface and the body, or between the two bodies in contact, like that we apply Newton's second law to any body that is attached to the rope or thread or whatever, and from the free body diagram of that, from that only we find out the tension. Okay, write down this example first, then we'll go up if required. Okay, what I'm discussing right now, everything needed is there in this example. Yeah, of course, tension is a force and force is a vector quantity, Meet. So it has a specific direction. So tension always acts along the length of the thread or the length of the rope. That is a specific direction. Okay, so this is the point we had made about tension in a light thread earlier, that if the thread is massless or light, then the tension must be uniform throughout its length. and that is what we are seeing in the example below. So remember, tension is a force, so it will be measured in newtons and it is a vector quantity. Yeah, Tej, I'll scroll down. There are other people who want to write down that note, so I can only cater to one person at a time. Yeah, so Mehak, you finished writing down the note, beta? Okay. So yeah, let's come back to this example. So now you can see the way the forces are acting in the example. Because the thread is massless, you can see that T2 has to balance T1. The net force on it has to be zero. It's in that vertical kind of state where it's at rest. So whatever the tension is at the lower end of the rope, it has to exactly be balanced by the tension at the upper end. And that is true for anywhere in the rope. Okay. So that's how we are coming to the conclusion that the tension is uniform throughout. See, Tej, what is happening? Any kind of thread or rope, if it is in a stretched kind of state, by definition, it will have a force along its length called tension. Okay. So here we can see that because we suspended the block using the rope or the thread, it has to be in a stretched state. So it has to have tension. So there's no question about it. Does it have tension or not? The question is the rope in a stretched state or is it in the in a loose state? The answer is no. It's in a stretched state. So it has to have tension. The question here is if it has tension now, how much is the tension going to be? So that is what we are getting from the free body diagram. We are getting it that it will be equal to the weight of the block. Yeah, yes, we will come to that in a different situation. But yes, what you're saying is correct. That if I replace the light thread with a heavy chain or something like that, then we will see that the tension T2 will not be equal to tension T1. It will include the weight of the chain. That is correct. Okay, and not just T2 and T1 at the upper end and the lower end, but at different points in the chain, there will be different amount of tension. As you go up the chain, the tension will be increasing. So the bottommost part will have the minimum tension, the topmost part will have the highest tension, and the tension will be continuously changing from one link of the chain to the other link like that. Okay, but as I said, we will come to that later. Okay, right now let us concentrate on the massless kind of variety first. Okay, now let's look at another example to understand further. Okay, so hope everybody is finished writing this down. Yeah, Tej, it is there. I've written it down in the definition above. You can repeat that definition if you like. Where I've explained what is tension, it's very clearly explained what the tension force is and what situation it occurs in. Okay, next example. We now have this kind of situation. On a smooth horizontal surface, okay, I've got two separate blocks. They need not be identical also. Okay, So I've got two separate blocks A and B, and they are connected to each other by a thread. Okay. A thread which is very light in comparison to the masses of the two blocks. Okay. And then what I'm doing is I'm pulling this combination from one side with an external force of F. Okay. So blocks A and B are connected by a light or massless. So remember what I told you about massless. Nothing is perfectly massless, but we can treat it like massless. It's nearly massless compared to the mass of the blocks. So light is actually the better word. That is very light in comparison. Its mass is negligible in comparison. So by a light thread, okay, and pulled from one end, from B's end, by a horizontal external force, F. So now given that the masses of the blocks are, let us say, 20 kilograms and 30 kilograms, and the force we are applying is, let us say, 15 newtons. Okay. We have to find the tension T in the thread and the accelerations of the blocks. Okay, so let us look at this situation next. Yeah, there's nothing to get confused. As I said, that whenever a thread or rope is in a stretched state, it is being pulled from both the ends with force, it will develop tension. If it is loose, it does not have tension. If it is tight, it has tension. So just imagine that if the thread is in a kind of state where it's forced to be tight, it means that yes, it will have tension. If it is not tight, then no, it will not have tension. As simple as that. Don't have to think anything further in it. So यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? If I was not applying force from this side, then the string in between would be in a loose state because there's nothing pulling the two blocks apart from each other. But the moment I apply force on one of the blocks from this side, even though I'm not applying force on the other one, but I'm tending to move the block B without directly affecting the block A. So it will pull on the thread. So as it pulls on the thread will become tight. So it will develop tension. So the string has to have tension now. Okay. So overall, if I look at the situation, what will happen here is the moment I'm applying force from one side, I'm giving this block a tendency to move like this. So it pulls on the thread. So the thread reacts by applying a tension backwards on it. And because the thread has become tight, it has a uniform tension throughout because it's massless. And therefore now this block also has a tendency to move. Now because they are connected by a thread, so they will have to move together. You know, the thread is not breaking. So we'll assume that, so at any point of time, if at one point of time this is like this, then after some time this will have to be like this, no? So they have to move together. They cannot move separately. It can't be that B is moving faster than A or A is moving slower than B or faster. Okay, what is happening? The thread will be in a stretched kind of state. stretched or tight kind of state, okay, and of fixed length, let's say L, okay. So that means that A and B have to move identically, because the distance between them has to remain fixed. So if between A and B there's a distance L at some time t, now after some time as they are moving, let's say B has reached here, A has reached here, but the distance between them has to remain L. So whatever is the displacement of block A, same will have to be the displacement of block B. Displacement of A will have to be equal to displacement of B. That means velocity of A will have to be equal to velocity of B. That means acceleration of A will have to be acceleration of B. So they'll have to have a common acceleration. Okay, that is the idea. Okay, so once you know this, the rest is very simple. Now what you do is you just make the free body diagrams. So next step, you make the free body diagrams of A and B, and from that you will be able to answer both these things: how much is the tension developed and how much is the accelerations of the blocks. Okay, so now you look at the individual free body diagrams. So for the block B on this side, what all forces are acting? We are applying the external force from this side, and that was of 15 newtons. Okay, and the string is pulling back with a tensile force T, which I don't know, and there is some acceleration here. And of course there are the vertical forces, the weight of this block and the normal reaction that the ground is applying. Okay, so the equations for block B become F minus T is mass of B into acceleration. That's equation 1. And normal reaction acting on B balances the weight. That's equation 2. Okay, now likewise the free body diagram of block E, how that is looking now. Horizontally there's only one force acting on it, tension, and it has this same horizontal acceleration of A. Vertically, of course, there are two forces which balance each other. So the weight of this block is balanced by the normal reaction that the ground is applying. So for block A, I have the equations that tension is equal to mass into acceleration, and normal reaction acting on A balances its weight. So these two equations I don't really need. Equation 2 and 4 are not really equations that I require, but from equations 1 and 3 you can see F minus T is equal to mass of B into A, and T is equal to mass of A into A. So this is what I require. I need to find acceleration and tension. So two equations, two variables. So you just add these two. So you're getting F is equal to, you can take acceleration common, A. So from this you find out, okay, so 15 newtons is equal to the combination of masses, which was 20 plus 30 kgs into acceleration. So you're getting the acceleration as 15 by 50, or that is 0.3 meters per second square. Okay, and you substitute that back in equation 3. So you get that tension is equal to mass of A into acceleration. So that is equal to 20 kg multiplied by the acceleration 0.3. So the tension is equal to 6 newtons. That's it. Okay. So ultimately everything in this chapter is solved by making the free body diagram and then applying Newton's second law. Okay. So I will just minimize this a little so that you can go through it and note down everything properly. But you'll just see it is just like problems we have solved previously. We are solving net force is equal to mass into acceleration from the free body diagram. All that is happening along the horizontal direction. But only thing is now in our analysis we are including the other force of tension. Okay. Of course, these will also tell you that from equations 2 and 4, you will get the normal reaction acting on A is equal to its weight, which will become 200 newtons, and the normal reaction acting on B will be equal to B's weight, which is equal to 300 newtons. But this is not really important for us right now because we wanted to find out what the tension and the accelerations that is coming from the horizontal equations or the horizontal component equations. No, it does not happen that way, Chris. It's not a rubber band, na? So it doesn't take time to stretch and develop tension. The moment you apply the force from this side, B carries A with it because they are attached together by a rope or a thread. Try to visualize this in real life, you will understand. Okay. A rope or a thread does not have a property like a rubber band, like an elastic material, that it gradually stretches. Doesn't happen that way. The moment you have applied force from this side, the tension has developed. And from the moment B starts moving, A starts moving along with it. Yeah, delta t is an interval in time, Tej. So when we write t plus delta t, it means after time interval of delta t. So the blocks will physically move as time progresses. So that's what we are showing in that diagram. But as they move, the distance between them does not change. It remains L. So that is why whatever the displacement of A is, same as the displacement of B. So differentiate displacement, you will get velocity. So whatever the velocity of A is, that will be equal to the velocity of B. And differentiate velocity once again, and you will get acceleration. Yeah, the last part we just calculated the value of tension here, so you can just write this down here. Tension is 6 newtons. That was the last line below. अभी कुणाल और क्या रिएक्शन फोर्स एक्ट करेगा? ए इज़ नॉट अटैच टू एनीथिंग एल्स ऑन द लेफ्ट हैंड साइड ना. ए इज़ इन कॉन्टैक्ट विद ओनली वन surface below, which is the floor, so there is a normal reaction force. But other than that, what is pulling A? It's the rope na. So whatever the tension in the rope, that is the only horizontal force acting on it. Got it na? So obviously what's happening, see, is on the block A there must be some kind of nail or hook or something like this attached here, and वहाँ पे there is the thread attached. So the thread is pulling that with a tension T. So whatever nail or hook is there, you are including that in your free body diagram of A. And similarly on the other side for B also same thing, there is a hook or thread or something like this. So this thread is applying a backward tension on that hook. Okay, so hope you're finished with this. Okay, so let's develop this with some more example questions. Okay, so once you got the basic idea, you'll see it's not too difficult. You have to just repeat the process every time for different questions. So our next example will involve a few more objects in comparison. Okay, so let's see. So let's go back to a case of the vertical situation. So we have got this. Okay, now we have got one light thread here. Okay, and this is used to attach or suspend one block like this. Okay, but we don't stop at this block now. There is another hook attached here. Okay, and yet another thread or another rope, but massless at the same time. Okay, we'll come to heavy ropes later. So another rope or massless thread like this is used to suspend a second block now. So we have this situation. Okay, and this is in a vertical situation. Okay, so blocks A and B are suspended in vertical equilibrium by a combination of two light threads, let's say P and Q. So this one is P and this thread is Q. Okay, so first of all, make the free body diagrams, the individual free body diagrams for the two blocks. Okay, showing all forces acting on them. And for that, it is also additionally given to us that the mass of the block A is let's say 4 kilograms, and the mass of the block B is 6 kilograms. Okay. And G, of course, we are taking as standard approximate value 10 meters per second square. Okay. Find the tensions, let's say TP and TQ in each of the threads. Okay, so just try this out. This should clear out a lot of concepts for you related with tension. Yes, yes, that is correct. So which one is 100 newtons and which one is 60 newtons? P has 100, right? The top string will have the larger tension. Yes, that's correct. Diti, your answer is correct. Okay. So see, it's very straightforward actually. You have to just imagine that how the strings are getting stretched out. If you're clear about that now, so you can see that the weight of this block is pulling this down. Okay, so it stretches this string. So this string develops tension TQ, which acts vertically upward on this block, but also pulls down A like this. Okay, and then A has its own weight, not to forget. So the earth is pulling down A, plus this string from below is also pulling down. So that increases the tension even more in this one. ये वाले string में tension और भी ज़्यादा हो जाता है because of that. Okay. So you look at each block's FBD and things become clear. You look at A's free body diagram. So there is its weight and there is tension in the lower string and there is tension in the upper string, and it's in equilibrium. Its acceleration is 0. Okay. So you have the equation TP balances the sum of TQ plus the weight of A. That's your equation 1. So this is what I was looking for in the first part, the free body diagrams. This is for A, and now similarly for B. Like in a proper free body diagram, you should just show it like a particle, but here I am showing it like a block. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So now on this there is a tension TQ acting upwards and weight acting downwards. So only two forces. So this is the less complicated one of the two. So इसके लिए directly we have TQ is equal to the weight of this block. Now you have two unknowns, tension in P and Q, and you have two equations. So that's all you require. So take equation 1 plus 2. dq will cancel out. You will get tension in P is equal to sum of the masses into G. So that you will work out, will come out to be 100 newtons. And from equation 2, this is just the weight of B, which is 60 newtons. So accordingly the tensions are coming out to be 100 newtons in the upper string and 60 newtons in the lower string. Simple. Yeah, Chris, so just hang on. We will come to heavy ropes also, but that will be secondary for us. Okay, we will most of the time in this chapter we will be dealing with strings and threads which are massless. So that's why I'm covering all the cases of that first, or at least few cases of that first, so that we are comfortable. Now let's continue with this for some time. Okay, now there are more interesting situations that we can look at also, where, so for example, now we have this kind of situation. We have a block of a certain mass. Now we have kept this suspended by a combination of two ropes or two threads, let's say like this, where one is attached like this. Okay, just a moment. So this is attached to one side and it's attached to the other side, but at different angles. Now we have attached the threads to two walls on the side such that they are suspended at different angles. So I'll just show that also. Okay. So these are two rigid walls. And we have this kind of situation. Now this angle is given to us as, let us say, 60 degrees, and this angle is given to us as 30 degrees. So this is, let's say, rope B, and this is, okay, A. So A and B are light threads used to suspend a block of mass m equal to, let us say, 10 kilograms vertically, as shown. Okay, so acceleration due to gravity is 10 meters per second square. So again we have to find the tensions, sorry, in this case TA and TB in them. Okay, so obviously you will start by making the FBD. Make the free body diagram of the block. Okay, and then apply the condition on that net force should be 0, because the block is at rest, it is at equilibrium. So when you apply that, now you will get the condition. Okay, so let us understand what all forces are acting on the block. So it's pretty simple really. You can see that there are three forces acting on the block. Two tensions and one weight. But this time we will have to do vector analysis because they are not all acting vertically. So that's where, okay. So if the tension in this one is TB, okay, and the tension in this one is TA. So you can see that from this side there is tension TB acting such that this angle is 30 degrees from the vertical, and from this side there is tension TA acting such that this angle is 60 degrees, okay, and there is mg, and the block is at rest. So the proper free body diagram will look like this. The combination of these forces acting on it. Okay. Now today we will also learn one interesting analysis in vectors called Lami's theorem, which gives us a shortcut method for solving this kind of situation. Okay. But first we will do by component method. So components resolve into components, taking this as the x-axis and this as the y-axis. So when we resolve tension on B, this component of tension, the vertical one, will become TB cos 30 degrees, and this will become TB sin 30 degrees because this angle was 30. Okay. Similarly, when we resolve TA, the vertical component will become TA cos 60 degrees. This side, the horizontal component will become TA sin 60 degrees. Okay. And mg will just let it be the way it is because it's already vertical. So the forces are resolved into x and y components. Okay. Now along the x-axis we have TB sin 30 degrees has to balance TA sin 60 degrees. So that is telling us that TB is equal to root 3 times TA. This is our equation 1. And along the vertical direction we have TA cos 60 plus TB cos 30 is balancing the weight. So we have and the weight was how much? It was mass of the block I had not given. Let's take, I had given here somewhere. 10 kgs. So this will become 100 newtons. So this is our second equation. So now we have to solve this system of equations. Okay. So we will solve equations 1 and 2 to get the two values, TA and TB. No, because it's not lying on the floor, na Yash. It's suspended vertically. So what we are assuming is that there's no floor over here. Just it's hanging between the two walls. Had there been a floor, it's a different matter. But yes, it's just it's hanging in air. There's no floor over here. You understanding? So that's why no normal reaction. Okay. So we still have to solve for TA and TB, but these are the equations you'll require. Yes, that's correct, Tej. Okay, so to solve these now, just do the normal substitution kind of thing. So in equation 2, substitute TB is equal to root 3 TA from equation 1. So we are having TA by 2 plus root 3 by 2 times TB, which is root 3 times TA. And this we have substituted here. That is becoming equal to 100 newtons. So 1 by 2 plus 3 by 2, that's 2 times TA is equal to 100. So we are getting TA is equal to 50 newtons. Okay, and we are getting TB therefore is root 3 times TA, so it is 50 root 3 newtons, or you can write it as approximately 50 into 1.73. Also you can write it that way, but this is okay, you can leave it this way only. So this is the fundamental way of solving it. Now there's also a shortcut trick which I'm coming to, which is a theorem from vectors actually called Lami's theorem, which is actually having major application in Newton's laws only, which is why I'm going to discuss it here. Yeah, correct. This will be around 86. Okay, so hope all of you are clear with this solution here. Alright, now before we get into more examples, we will, aside from this, learn a new theorem today from vector algebra actually. It is called Lami's theorem. Okay, it's actually from vector algebra, but it is mostly useful for equilibrium of three forces kind of situation. Okay, so it's like this, that the theorem says that if a combination of three forces are acting on a particle, which we denote with these three vectors, like this, suppose. Okay, so this is one vector, this is another vector, this is another vector. So if the sum of these three is 0, so for example, if A and B and C are forces, it means that net force is 0. So that's what we mean by saying that equilibrium of three forces. But it could be any three vectors. It could be the sum of three velocities, the sum of three displacements is 0, whatever. Okay. Now the condition for this is, now see, opposite to A, the angle between B and C, we'll denote that with alpha. Opposite to B, the angle between A and C, will denote it with beta. And opposite to C, the angle between A and B, will denote it as gamma. So the condition for this is that magnitude of A divided by sine alpha should be equal to magnitude of B divided by sine beta should be equal to magnitude of C divided by sine gamma. This is the condition. This is the condition for A plus B plus C to be equal to a null vector. Okay, so just note this down, and this will make problems like this a single line solution. So that is why, okay, it's only for 3, it's for the sum of 3 vectors. Okay, as a vector algebra theorem, it is the sum of 3 vectors equals to 0 condition. Okay, you can't apply this to more than 3 vectors or less than 2 vectors. This is a particular theorem for 3 vectors. So we will discuss the proof of this also. It's very simple. It comes from trigonometry. It's similar to sine rule in a triangle. If you have done trigonometry of triangles, I'm not sure if you've done sine and cosine rule in triangles yet. But if you have done, then you'll be familiar with a similar kind of statement in trigonometry also. Okay, so let's first apply this in the above problem, then we will come back to the proof of this. So in that example, what was happening is that on my block, okay, there was one tension acting from this side, which was at 30 degrees to the vertical, one tension acting from this side, which was at 60 degrees to the vertical, and there was mg. Okay. So the combination of the three things which was 0 was this tension and the weight. So you'll see that using this theorem will really speed up the solution. You will not have to solve two equations simultaneously. We will directly get the answer. Now, what are the things that we know here? We know that this angle is 30 and this angle is 60. Okay, and of course this is 90, this angle. And we know that this one's weight is equal to how much? The weight was 100 newtons. No? Okay, so in this format, in the earlier format, what do the angles become? In the Lami's theorem format, when we show the angles between the vectors, you can see that this angle is 90 degrees, sum of 60 and 90, 30. Okay, this angle is how much? 180 minus 30, so it's 150 degrees. And this angle is how much? 180 minus 60 or 120 degrees. So these are these angles. Okay. So for the vector sum to be 0, this is in equilibrium. Okay. So the condition for equilibrium is that TA upon sine of the opposite angle to TA, or the angle between B and mg, so that is sine 150, should be equal to magnitude of TB divided by sine of this angle between A and mg, so that is sine 120 degrees, and that should be equal to the weight divided by sine of the opposite angle, which is 90 degrees. Now you see, just from this statement alone we'll get the answers directly. So we know that sine 150 is the same as sine 30, okay, and sine 120 is the same as sine 60 and the weight was 100 newtons. Okay, so you can see that you're directly getting TA is equal to half of 100 or 50, and TB is equal to root 3 by 2 into 100. So it is extremely convenient to use Lami's theorem whenever we are dealing with a specific case of equilibrium of three forces. Remember, it is only for equilibrium of three forces. We cannot apply Lami's theorem for any other condition. We can't apply when the body is accelerated, because then we don't have equilibrium. Or we can't apply it if we are looking at equilibrium with more than three forces. Okay, it's a very specific situation for this. Okay, so this is the condition for equilibrium. From Lami's theorem. Okay, so this is just a shortcut method for you, and as you have seen already in your major tests, even saving a minute is a very big thing in JEE, because it means one more question you can attempt. Okay, so hope this application of Lami's theorem in this example is clear to you, and more importantly, it's showing you, why it is. नहीं ऐसा नहीं है बेटा क्रिश, दैट्स नॉट करेक्ट. मतलब in this case it might work because it's 90 degrees, so you can resolve it this way also, because the angle between A and B is 90 degrees, so it can work that way, but in general it will not work. You understanding the point? यहाँ पे you can resolve this way. But suppose I had given some different angles, no? Then it would not work that way. I'll show you it. So that's another way of resolving and solving. Okay. Because the angle between the two tensions happen to be 90 degrees, you can do it that way. That because this angle is 90, you can resolve mg instead of resolving this thing, no? Instead of resolving the tensions into vertical and horizontal, you could have done this, that you take mg and now you resolve mg into components. You take this as your y-axis and take this direction as your x-axis. So we'll have to figure out the angles, but so how we'll figure out the angles? We know that this angle was 30. Okay, so here this angle is 30. So now you break mg into components. So this component of mg is mg cos 30 and this component of mg is mg sin 30. So you can do that. Okay, so we've broken mg into components. Now you can see that TA is balancing mg cos 30 and TB is balancing mg sin 30. So it is root 3 by 2 times 100 and this is half times 100. That's okay here because this angle is 90. Okay, but now suppose I give you a problem where that angle is not 90 now. Lami's theorem is still very comfortable for us, but the other theorem will not be. Okay, so suppose I give you a situation where this is acting at, let's say, 30 degrees and this one is acting at 45 degrees. So the angle between them is 75 now. So we can't resolve that way. Now you can't resolve mg in the individual directions. ऐसा नहीं कर सकते हम. So here we cannot do this resolution, but we can still apply Lami's theorem. There's no problem with Lami's theorem. So here Lami's theorem will give us what? That this angle will be 150, this angle will be 135. So Lami's theorem will be simple, that TB upon sine 150 is equal to TA upon sine 135 degrees is equal to mg upon sine 75 degrees. And sine 75 you can just calculate by formula. So that is sine A cos B plus cos A sin B. So sine 75 will come like this and rest of the things you can. So this method is okay, but here we cannot resolve mg like this. So understood, na Krish? So this is a different example compared to the previous one. Okay. Now let's look at a quick proof of Lami's theorem. So suppose the sum of these three vectors is 0. Okay. So that also means that when we draw them head to tail, okay, vectors A, B and C should form a closed triangle. Okay, so if I draw them instead of in this manner from a common origin, if I draw them one after the other, okay, So A is drawn here, then from A I draw the vector B, then C should become like this. That is a condition for their vector sum to be 0. Okay. Now you can see that here the angle between A and B, this angle, that will come in here. So this angle will be gamma. Okay. Then the angle between B and C, extend the direction of B. So the angle between B and C is this angle. So that angle is which one? This one, the angle between B and C. So this one is alpha. Okay. And finally the angle between C and A. So this is the direction of C extended. So the angle between C and A is this one here. C to A is this angle. So that is beta. Okay. So you have this condition. So now within this triangle you can do a simple operation. Drop a perpendicular from any vertex to the other two sides. So I am doing it from this vertex to the side C. So let's say this perpendicular is a height h. Okay. So now in this, the two separate right angle triangles that you are getting. Okay. So now in this right angle triangle and this right angle triangle, you will see that h by a is equal to sine of this angle. So this angle is how much? 180 minus gamma. So that is sine gamma. And in the other triangle you will see h by this hypotenuse, which is b, is equal to sine of this angle. So that is sine of 180 minus alpha. So that is sine of alpha. So now connect these two statements and you will get Lami's theorem's first part. Now like that, drop another perpendicular and relate any two other sides. Okay. So from this you are getting that h is equal to E sine gamma, and from this you are getting h is also equal to beta. My mistake. This angle is beta. Right. This angle is beta, na? So this interior angle here is 180 minus beta. So this is sine beta. So this should be beta, and from here this should be sine alpha. So h equals a sine beta is equal to b sine alpha. So in other words, a upon sine alpha is equal to b upon sine beta. Now like that you take the other one also. You take any of the other two altitudes and you will get the same kind of result, but for the other two sides you will get. Okay. Now for example, if I take this altitude from here, drop this. Okay. So this will give me that b upon sine beta is equal to c upon sine gamma, and then you combine these two statements. Okay, so you will get Lami's theorem. Okay, so that is the proof of Lami's theorem. So in other words, you can see that it is just pure geometry of vectors, nothing else. But as you can see, it's very, very useful. Okay, people. So now the next thing we'll see, in continuation of what we are doing in Newton's laws. Okay. Tej, you can take down the proof later because the proof is secondary for us. I'll send you the notes anyway. Okay. You can take down the proof later. More importantly, you remember the statement of Lami's theorem and the application of it. Okay. I want to cover this portion. That's why. Okay. So the next part we'll see of Newton's laws is pulley systems. So let's understand this. So we will take a standard type of pulley here in this chapter. A standard pulley will be a one which has these properties. Okay. The surface of the pulley is is smooth, frictionless. Okay, or what we call smooth. Okay, and the pulley itself is massless or very light. Okay, so let me explain what we mean by this. So the general shape of the pulley will be something like this. The pulley has sort of a disc like this. Okay, and can be mounted on this axle. Okay, so this is the 3D kind of view of the pulley. Okay, so from the side view we just show it like this. The axle of the pulley. Okay, so it's basically like a cylinder with two discs attached to it going around an axle. So it need not be so different also, the radii. It can be nearly same also, the cylinder and the two discs on the side. It can be like this also. With this kind of shape also. Okay. But the important thing is that the thread, when we have a thread going around it, it goes on this surface. So this is what we mean by the surface of the pulley. This is the smooth surface of the pulley. Okay, so any thread that is around it can slip freely without friction. So now if we have some thread wound around this, some thread from either side. So imagine this pulley is vertically suspended like this from its axle. Okay, and from either side there is that thread coming out. So if we pull the thread from one end, it can slip freely on the surface. Okay. So if this is a thread which is wound on the pulley's surface, okay. Now because this is a smooth surface, what happens is that the thread slips on the surface when pulled. So that is the meaning of the pulley being smooth, and the significance of its being light will come in later. Okay. So this kind of a system is a pulley. Yeah, it is like the yo-yo. Okay. Triangle is just the point from which the pulley is suspended. The disc of the pulley, it has to be suspended from a ceiling or something by some kind of arrangement. So that's the support structure, like this. Okay. Or the pulley could be mounted on the corner of a table or something. Is another example. Could be like this. Okay. No, it refers to the pulley. Massless means the pulley itself, the disc of the pulley. Okay, the two discs and the cylinder. That whole thing is of negligible mass. That is what we mean by massless pulleys. Okay. So let us see the most simple example of an arrangement involving a pulley system. Yeah, I'm coming to the last diagram. I'll be using that only, Tej. Okay. So now this is a frictionless table, frictionless horizontal surface of the table. Okay. And on that smooth surface, at the corner, we have mounted a pulley and fixed it to the corner. Okay. So this is a smooth fixed pulley. Okay. And then we have got this thread which is used to connect two blocks, one which is hanging vertically, but the thread is going around the disc of the pulley, okay, around the surface. So this thread is being used to connect two blocks. Let's say A and B. Okay. So blocks A and B are of identical mass, M equal to 10 kgs. Okay. The system is released from rest with the thread taut. Okay, so this one here, this is a massless thread. Okay, so that thread is taut. That means it is not loose, it's not hanging loose, it's tight. Okay, so we have to find the accelerations, okay, and the tension in the thread. Okay, so this is the problem at hand. Okay, so let's understand how this system actually works out. Okay, so I'll just make a copy of the diagram. Okay, so the moment we release it, what will happen? The block B, pulled down by gravity, it has a tendency to get pulled down, and as it gets pulled down, what is happening? It will pull this block A on the horizontal surface towards the right. But why that is happening? That is happening because they are connected by a thread which has tension, and that thread is massless, so it will have uniform tension throughout. So whatever tension is there at this end, same amount of tension will act on the block A. Okay, and whatever downward acceleration this block has, this will have the same horizontal acceleration. Why? Because the thread is of fixed length. So in a certain interval of time, if B comes down by a centimeter, A will have to move by 1 centimeter. Okay, so if B has a certain velocity, B will also have exactly the same velocity as magnitude, but in the downward direction. So they have identical accelerations, identical velocities, identical displacements in magnitude. Though one is moving horizontally, the other is moving vertically. So the rest is just about free body diagram. Okay, so you see A's free body diagram. The forces acting on it are tension, only one force horizontally, normal reaction and weight balancing each other, and it has an acceleration E. So tension should be equal to mass into acceleration. Normal reaction balances weight. So this is my important equation. This is equation 1. Now on the other side, you look at the free body diagram of block B. So B's story is that it's accelerating downwards with the same magnitude of acceleration, but tension is trying to slow it down. If we cut the thread, there would be no tension, so it would come down with G. It would be in free fall, but now it's not in free fall because of the tension. So for the block B, what is the equation? Mg minus tension is equal to mass into acceleration. So that's our second equation. So now just solve the two equations. Add equation 1 plus 2. You can see you will get mg is equal to m plus m into E. So that means the system is having an acceleration of g by 2, regardless of what the mass of the thread is. Okay, and I mean mass of the blocks is. Okay, and substitute that back over here. So the tension is mg by 2. So these become the answers. Okay. So then we can just figure out what the value of tension is from the mass of the blocks which I had given. So it's 10 kgs each. Okay, so mass of A was equal to mass of B equal to 10 kg each, and G will take as 10 meters per second square. So the common magnitude of acceleration will come out to be 5 meters per second square, and the tension in the thread will come out to be half the weight, so that is 15 newtons. Okay, so this is like the most basic type of example of a system having a pulley. So once again, the key to solving it is free body diagram, and then the application of Newton's second law from free body diagrams. Okay, hope this example is clear to all of you people. Okay, just make a note of this carefully. The last diagram, it's the free body diagram of B, na? Object A and B, उनके free body diagrams हैं. There are two bodies, there are two blocks, right? Yes, what is it, Rachit? You have some question? Please ask. Yeah, you have to start doing questions from HC Verma. Okay, I will be sending you worksheet also, but start doing questions from HC Verma even before the module. Na? From HC Verma, concepts of physics. Volume 1. There is a chapter called Newton's Laws of Motion. The name of the chapter is only Newton's Laws of Motion. So start doing questions from that. You can start with the solved examples and the exercise questions. Okay, that's it for today, people. Wish you all the best.